My name is Scott Karcher of Cornerstone University, and today I will be presenting to you Operation Guyana, which you will be embarking on shortly in an attempt to aid, work with, and influence the mental health and homeless culture in Guyana. Guyana is a state in South America with a population of approximately 865,000 people. The majority of the population is made up of East Indian and African ethnical groups, with the national spoken language being English. The top exports, according to nationsonline.org, are gold, rice, aluminum ore, and raw sugar. If a person is not mining, they are farmers working in the fields. Some work in small industries, and the rest of the population is impoverished. Guyana, although a beautiful nation full of forests, water, tropical sun, and beaches, has a diplomatic government which has been known to be corrupt. This has led to funding not being distributed or allocated where it could be best benefit to the people. Due to the lack of funding and medical care, Guyana has the world's largest suicide rate. According to Farhan Mohammed's 2015 article, Guyana, Mental Illness, Witchcraft, and the Highest Suicide Rate in the World, dictates that the suicide rate is 44.2 suicides per 100,000 people, with a global average being 16 suicides per 100,000 people. Several reasons, such as drug and alcohol abuse, can be considered factors for these suicide rates. But the real reason for the suicide rate escalating to these levels is not clear. The one thing that is clear is there is a lack of mental health services and staffing. As you move into your new position, you will be challenged by the culture, change, and its leadership. Style of leadership, which will allow you to transition smoothly, is servant leadership. Servant leadership, according to DAF 2018, 7th edition, the leadership experience is comprised of 4 elements. Put service before self-interest. Listen first and affirm others. Inspire trust by being trustworthy. And nourish others and help them become whole. Put service before self-interest. This is where you, the servant leader, begins to play a key role by influencing a nation. As a servant leader, you should not demonstrate the behaviors which are reflected in the self-serving government of Guyana. Rather, you will need to put the people you are working with first. This serves several purposes, with the greatest being that you are lowering yourself to the same level as the one being served. Listening first to affirm others. Listening empathetically allows you to feel what the person you are speaking with feels. It shows a sense of dignity and interest to the issues that the person is experiencing. Listen pure and listen with your heart. The third element of servant leadership is inspire trust by being trustworthy. Trust is a fragile gift, as we all know, and is not given to everyone. And because you are in a cross-cultural environment, it cannot be overemphasized enough that following through with actions that you have promised need to be carried out. People with mental illnesses, according to Muhammad 2015, are misunderstood in Guyana, with symptoms often mistakenly attributed to witchcraft. These misunderstandings lead to communities ostracizing the mentally ill and forcing them to isolate themselves, which leads to homelessness and suicide. The last element of servant leadership is nourish others and help them to become whole. Along with the mentally ill, the nourishing of others stems to the families and to the mental health workers fatigued with the insurgence of the needy. Every person reached must understand their self-worth in society, their relationship to helping others, and how they can contribute back to those needs once they have been healed. Developing cultural intelligence will aid in your servant leadership role by how you adjust to adversity and problem solving within your new environment. DAV 2018 categorizes the three components as cognitive, emotional, and physical. Cognitive skills are those learning abilities which will allow a person to read another's words, actions, and body language in order to decipher and comprehend them. Cognitive skills are critical for interventions, education in those rural areas, and aiding in solving Guyana's mental health issue. Emotional skills build upon cognitive skills. As you gain knowledge and understanding, you will grow more confident within the culture that you are serving and be able to interact with governmental agencies, religious leaders, and community leaders. Completing the cultural triad is physical skills, which allow you to gain control of your personal physical antics. Controlling anxieties, gestures, and demeanor are essential in the way communication is broadcast to others, especially in alternate cultures. Another leadership application that complements servant leadership is communication to persuade and influence. Working in Guyana, at some level, you will run into problems communicating with patients, leaders, or workers. It's important that you understand your role as a good communicator. DAF 2018 gives 4 steps to hone those skills of a good communicator. And those steps are: listen first, establish credibility, build goals on common ground, and make your position compelling to others. Listening first. Listening first is the criterion for servant leader and building cognitive learning and cultural intelligence. People want to be heard, and for the person who is able to listen attentively without bias to what is being spoken will ultimately gain the trust of the speaker with whom you are trying to gain influence over. Establishing credibility. Actions play a role in establishing credibility, but only on the surface. Credibility comes from a person's knowledge about key issues or tasks at hand. Demonstrating intellect, professionalism, and good decision-making skills builds trust among those whom you are attempting to serve. Building goals on common ground. Coming from an advanced and educated culture, it is important to establish common ground, not only with the mental health care workers on the front lines of this epidemic, but also the local government. Displaying a servant leadership style will allow you to displace any preconceived perceptions of the host country's workers. You must establish this common ground in order to have an impact within the organizations, to create goals, and have a vision to track your success and failures. The final element of communicating to persuade and influence is to make your position compelling to others. When the opportunity presents itself, share your experiences with those persons you are working with. This builds relationships and trust. Conducting yourself in a transparent way will grant you more access into the heart of the community, where you can be more persuasive. You will find that most people share universal common goals and interests. And if you're able to tap into those ideologies, you will only strengthen your position, which allow you to have majority voice in how decisions are made. In closing, I believe that the key to making a significant impact in Guyana's mental health system is to lead through servant leadership principles. By placing the Guyanese people first, listening with an empathetic ear, inspiring those you come into contact with through education and building self-worth, you emulate Christ's life example, by being the light of hope for those who are seeking a way out of a mental and physical country of darkness. Thank you.